Today's math lesson is 2.6, and the title is Practice Subtracting Whole Numbers and Decimals. Please find your indigo color and yellow. Push pause on the video and set up your journal so that it says all of these things. So you should have already written practice subtracting whole numbers and decimals. When subtracting, remember to line up place values correctly, and then I put the subtraction sign under there. There will often be times when you will need to fill in place values with zero the hero. That has an arrow because you really need to remember that. Here's another arrow. There will often be times when you will need to borrow and regroup in order to subtract. So those are all skills that we have already learned, so that's why today it is just practice. So you should have written all of those things down. If you have not yet, you can pause the video to get it done. But we are going to move on to some examples. Okay, here are some examples of when you subtract that you need to line up place values and you might need to borrow or regroup. And you're going to use all of the skills that we have used before as far as lining up the decimals. Okay, so the first one we're going to try is this. If I have a number, just the number 6,000, where is there a decimal in the number 6,000? It's at the end right here after the ones place, remember? Just want to make sure you remember that. But let's say I give you the problem written like this. 6,000 minus 348. In this situation, you don't really need to worry about the decimals, but you could because the decimals belong at the end of both of those after the ones place. So in order to do this subtraction, you need to make sure that you stack it up and that you put the digits in the right place values. Okay? So let's come underneath that and show how we would do that. I would take 6,000 minus 348. I lined up the 8 and the 0 in the ones place because I knew that there were decimals after those. I just don't need the decimal because they're all whole numbers. Okay, here we go. Can I do 0 minus 8? No, so this is where we're going to need to borrow and regroup. So I have to go over to the tens place and ask to borrow 10, and they say no, they don't have any. So I go to the hundreds, and they also don't have any. So I have to go clear over to the thousands and say, thank you, I need that. And I took 1,000 away. That's me regrouping while I come over here. And I don't make that to have 0 hundreds. I make it to have 10 hundreds so that I can take it away and give it to the next place value. So I make this one a 10, but I need to take it away and give 10 ones over here. That's why I have a 10 here now. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 4 is 5. 9 minus 3 is 6. And 5 minus nothing is 5. So the answer there, I'm going to use yellow, is 5,652. So again, the decimal placement was important to remember that the ones place needs to be lined up. And then you had to do a lot of borrowing and regrouping on that. Anytime you have a lot of zeros in the first number, you're going to be having to do that. Okay, keep that in mind. All right, the next problem we're going to try is this one. 18,652 minus, so it's just wholes again, 18,652 minus 4 and 31 hundredths. So this is a problem where we're going to have to use a lot of skills here. We're going to have to look at this and go, these are all wholes. So the decimal would be there at the end after the ones. But I'm taking away some in the ones place and then more from the tenths and the hundredths. And I don't even have tenths or hundredths yet in this number. So I begin simply by stacking it up. Write the number 18,652. I would put a decimal at the end of that. And I'm going to subtract 4.31. Where does that 4 belong? I want you to point on your paper to where it belongs. If you pointed underneath the 2, you are correct, because the 2 is the number that's in the ones place, and I have to line up the place values. Do you know the button man, the button man, the button man? Do you know the button man? He lines the decimals up. But this one has 4.31. So look how crazy this subtraction problem looks. I've got a whole bunch of holes over here, taking away some holes, but mostly some pieces too. So I have to use zero the hero. I'm going to use my blue for this, the indigo color. I have to fly in zero the heroes, and now I can do normal subtraction. Okay, so I just did this part right here where I had to line up the place values and use zero the hero. Now I'm here. Do you see how there's zeros at the end? I'm going to have to borrow and regroup. So this is just a little bit of subtraction practice. If I have 0 hundredths, can I take away 1 hundredth? No. I have to borrow from the tenths, but there's not any there. So I have to go clear to the ones place and borrow from there. I make that a 1, which brings over 10 over here. Change it to 9 so that you can borrow again over here. And now I'm ready. 10 minus 1, 9. 9 minus 3, 6. Decimal, decimal, decimal. Button it up. They should all be lined up. It's a really big decimal I drew. 1 minus 4. Can't do that. So I borrow from the tens place. Now it's not 1, it's 11. 11 minus 4, 7. 4 minus nothing is 4. 6 minus nothing is 6. 8 minus nothing is 8. 1 minus nothing is 1. So I need to put the comma in, starting at the decimal. 1, 2, 3. This answer is red. See if you can read it with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 18,647 and 69 hundredths. Why did we say hundredths? Because the last digit ended in the hundredths place. All right, we are only going to practice one more of these. Here we go. Let's just come right here and put it in the middle then. 350.6 or and 6/10 minus 176.54. First thing I do, stack them up. With subtraction, it absolutely matters which one is on top. You have to start with the bigger number or the one that's given first and put it on top. So I'm going to rewrite this problem. 176 decimal. So I have to put the decimals in the same place. 176. And then 0.54. So I put the 5 in the tenths place, and then they have a digit that's in the hundredths, but I do not. So I will need a 0 the hero. So 0 the placeholder. All right. Now I do subtraction. Why don't you pause the video and come back and see if you got the same answer as me. Ready? Push pause. Okay, if you're coming back from pausing the video, let's see if you got the answer correct. 0 minus 4. Can't do that. Had to borrow. 10 minus 4 is 6. 5 minus 5, can you do that? Yes, it's 0. Decimal, decimal, decimal. Button up the jacket. 0 minus 6, can't do that. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 minus 7, can't do that. Ooh, lots of borrowing and regrouping. 14 minus 7, 7. 2 minus 1, 1. So my final answer is 174 and 6 hundredths. That's how you would say that. So if you scrunched up all of your numbers, well, hopefully you pat yourself on the back for getting that correct. If you didn't get it correctly, make sure you fix it. If I scrunch up my numbers when I write and I don't keep them lined up and organized, it's going to be really messy. I'm not going to be able to tell what I'm doing. So make sure that you write large enough and space out your numbers enough that you have space to work. You have paper. We can always get extra paper. So please, please, please make sure that you're making your numbers large and spacing them out so that you can stay organized. All right, for the next part of our journal, you're going to need to find your math workbook, and you're going to need to turn to page 59 and you will need to tear it out of your workbook. It says subtraction with ungrouping at the top. So meet me in the next video after you've torn out page 59.